Hi, and welcome to your weekly juice. Tips and advice on how to boost your confidence, conquer self doubt, and keep you pumped all week. I'm Louisa Jewell, author of Wire Your Brain for Confidence, The Science of Conquering Self Doubt. And today I'm here with my lovely daughter, Christina Jewell. And welcome, Christina.
Thank you.
And we're here to share an experience, a kind of interesting experience that we had the other day in the car. Should I tell the story? Or? So we were driving in the car, and I have a convertible, so we had the top down so that we could, we could hear everything around us, and we were at a four-way stop sign. And one car sort of went through the intersection, and then I thought I had the right of way, and so I started into the intersection. I was pretty sure I had the right of way. And I guess the other gentleman who was coming towards us thought that he had the right of way because as we were kind of approaching him, you could tell he started to honk furiously. He was yelling and screaming at the top of his lungs, almost like somebody was trying to stab him to death. He was so furious. I've never seen anybody so furious, and he was trying to drive into my car. And then as we drove by, of course, we could hear everything. He was just yelling and yelling these obscenities, swear words, calling us names, and we didn't quite realize what was happening until we kind of drove by. and and then I kind of turned to Christina and said, "Oh, that guy was pretty mad." And then we were on our way to the grocery store. So when we got into the grocery store, I said to Christina, had this been a few years ago, that would have really, really upset me. It would have really unsettled me. I would have been very upset. Maybe I would have yelled stuff back. Maybe I would have stopped. I would have thought about it for days, maybe ruminated over it, over what I should have said. And yet now that I've kind of trained myself not to do that anymore, it didn't even faze me. And what I was really surprised at too is that it didn't faze Christina. I was kind of amazed at her reaction or non-reaction. So what was your thought? How were you able to just not be fazed by something like that?
Well, you can tell in those moments that no matter what, you're going to get over it at some point or another. And so by reminding yourself of that in the moment, it becomes a lot easier just to never be fazed and to never even go into thinking about what you should have said or like what happened. You can predict that you're going to get over it and then just get over it immediately and not have to think about it anymore.
Okay, so it's almost in that moment you're saying, okay, I know that I'm going to get over this, so why even bother engaging in the emotions at all?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. And so are you making a choice? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, yeah. You're making a choice, and it's a choice about yourself, I think. Like, what am I going to engage in right now? I could either forget about what happened and allow myself to just leave it behind and allow myself to just drop it, which feels wrong sometimes if you feel like you have to engage in something, or if it feels like something was very intense. It feels like almost like you're cheating just by dropping it off. But you are allowed to do that. You can. So I think it is a choice that you make.
Yeah. But that's interesting because a lot of people don't see their emotions as choices. They just react, right? Your first instinct is really just to immediately react to something.
Yeah.
Because that was pretty crazy for.
Yeah, he was really angry.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah. You know, and I remember it was funny because you said, "Wow, he's really mad because he didn't get the right of way." Like it wasn't the end of the. It wasn't like we were going to cause an accident. We were both going like 1 mile an hour, if that kind of thing. So there was no like danger he was in or anything like that. So I like this idea of a choice because for me, I use David Paulet's concept of the law of the garbage truck.
Yeah.
So I think it's good if people are directing their anger at you to say, oh, well, maybe there's a reason why they're directing their anger at me and I need to deal with that, right? But in those cases where someone has gone ballistic over, I don't know, was I there first? Were you there first? Maybe you were
It
there
doesn't
first.
matter.
It doesn't warrant that kind of anger. So I could sort of consider that kind of anger garbage, right? And I think I am not your garbage receptacle. You're driving around trying to dump your garbage on someone. You're obviously a very angry person.
Yeah.
I will not be your garbage receptacle. And therefore, I don't even feel those emotions at that time because I think in that moment, I too am making a choice. Do I engage in this or do I not? Now, if he was trying to threaten us or cause us danger, then of course I would have reacted, right? Especially with you in the car, here we are, mom and daughter, I didn't feel that he was going to do anything to us. So I chose not to engage in those kinds of
Yeah.
negative emotions because I think there's nothing to be gained here. He's just trying to dump his garbage, and I will not be his garbage receptacle. So it was great. I didn't even feel it in my body at all,
Yeah.
right? Which is really great. Now, there was something else that you mentioned in the grocery store, which was to keep your emotions separate from the emotions of the other person. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think sometimes if we do something wrong or if we do something well, and other people respond to those things that we did with strong emotion, it feels right and intuitive to absorb those emotions empathetically and feel like we deserve them and feel like we need to respond to them immediately. But I think a good way to approach things, especially in these situations where it might ruin your day if you absorb the anger that you're being given, to just recognize that someone else is displaying emotion because of what they're going through ultimately, because of their experiences. And so you are able to recognize that and pick up only what you want to feel and only feel what you think you actually what you think is
Contributed
an
or
actual like valid reaction to what's going on. So in his case, if he feels like it's perfectly valid to yell at us for something, we are able to drop that anger and we are able to let it go. And the same thing can go for any situation. Even if we feel like what we did is wrong, we don't necessarily need to absorb everything that people give us and continue taking blame over and over and over again. We are able to assess our own actions separately from the reactions that other people are giving us about them. And in that way, release ourselves from other people deciding how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about our day.
wow, I love that. I love that. And I love that you also say, because that's a way to easily be manipulated too. If you're always just allowing yourself to feel a certain way because someone else feels that way.
Yeah.
And by keeping it separate, we can say, well, wait a sec. So we can say either, oh my gosh, it's true, I did a terrible thing and I feel bad and I feel guilty. And that's useful because you don't
Right.
want to do that stuff again. So you don't want to ignore that stuff. I think there's a difference between, understanding people's emotions when it's not garbage, right? When it's real and legitimate and, you can consider what your part was in that whole altercation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And in every altercation, in anything, you can consider how you want to feel about what you did.
Yeah.
And take ownership over those emotions instead of feeling like someone else gave them to you and like they're to blame for those emotions. So if you did feel guilty about what happened, then you'd be able to own that guilt and know that you chose it for yourself, instead of just wishing that those kinds of guys would go away so you wouldn't have to feel. Wrapping
Yes.
up your emotions with other people, I think it makes things really complicated for yourself.
But I like that. At least then you can say, okay, I do feel guilty. What am I going to do about that now,
Exactly.
right?
And taking ownership, I think, is a really good first step into action.
Yeah, and instead of ruminating about it, say, okay, I feel guilty. What am I going to do? Get into action. Deal with how you're feeling. And then you get over your upset, if you are upset about something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being on my weekly Choose.
Anytime.
That was Christina Jewell, my lovely daughter. And thank you for joining us for this week's Weekly Juice. I hope you found this little conversation enlightening and helpful. And if you did, please share it with your friends. You will see me next week on the Weekly Juice. And in the meantime, go kick some butt. All right. See you, everyone.